I love questions. Questions are some of my favorite types of sentences because I am a grammar nerd. That probably makes sense. But I love what questions open up. And also because we don't always know what other people wonder about, think about. A new perspective can come from amazing questions. So, in this episode of the Joyosity podcast, we're going to do some questions and responses. So I asked on Instagram a while back, what are some of your questions? And it was really an ask me anything. It could be about the process of the book, it could be about the Enneagram, it could be about coaching, about speaking. And I got so many great questions. So I'm going to see how many I can do today. I may do a second episode of questions. But if you are new here and you're like, where have I stumbled? Welcome to the Joyosity podcast. And I'm so glad that you have stumbled upon your way here. Maybe somebody shared this with you, or you found it because of, the gnomes in the night that control the interwebs. But here, what we're doing in this corner of leadership and life is where joy is at the center, and that we can design our entire lives for joy. I'm Jenn Whitmer, international keynote speaker, leadership consultant, and all around joy bringer. And if you are a regular here, I'm always grateful for you. This fall, we did a series inspired by my upcoming book, Joyosity, that is in stores now. You can get that at jennwhitmer.com/books. It is a book for leaders on how to cultivate intense happiness in work and in life, even if things are what they are. So around here, we're not doing toxicity. We are not settling for that. We're not settling for overwhelmed leaders all of the time or the exhaustion of it's just too much. So we're getting out of that. And I'm going to I always bring you stories and research and tools you can use right away to create a joy-filled, productive life that also is for you as a leader, creating a thriving workplace. And we start with you. So on my questions, I have gotten my questions over here. I think one of my favorite questions was actually about how do you rest in busy seasons? What does rest look like in the middle of the holiday season right now? What does rest look like in May, in the Maycember madness? What does it look like in back to school? How do you rest in busy seasons? And what I love about this question is because it it helps us understand that rest is a continual need. I often say rest is a weapon. Rest is a weapon against your life falling apart. So we know that rest is important, but I think sometimes we shame ourselves that we need rest. If you are a human living in the world, you need rest. There's just no way around it. It is a biological and psychological and mental need. You must rest. You can't just continually move and keep going without rest. You will fall apart. So how do you do that when it's really, really busy? So there are times of intensity where you can't rest as much as you would like. And so one of the things I talk about in the book is how do you do rest in a rhythm? How do you create a rhythm of rest so you're getting what you need? And how do you know when to change that rhythm? So you can dig into that in Joyosity. But for today, I think we need to think about rest more like we think about water or food. We're not like, well, I'm just not going to eat this week and I'm going to eat it all on the weekend. We don't think about it like that. Or I'm just not going to drink all day and I'm just going to have 5 gallons of water before I go to bed. We all know that that's not okay. That's the way I want you to think about rest. In these busy seasons, you have to find sips of water. You have to find snacks of food. You have to find sips and snacks of rest. And you need to plan for it. So when you plan for these small amounts of rest, because it's really quite amazing how much 5 minutes of rest can help you. It's amazing what a 20-minute nap can do for you. So find those snips and snacks in your day where you can have moments of silence, stillness, and solitude, where you just have 90 seconds with a cup of coffee to yourself in the quiet, where you build in 5 minutes between your Zoom meetings so you can transition well. Those are ways to find rest in the moment. So you're not just moving from one thing to the next all the time, and then you just completely fall apart in bed, or you start scrolling because it's the only time you've had a moment to yourself. So build those times in throughout your day and your week. Now, there are some days where, my goodness, I have to be at a networking breakfast to speak at 7 a.m. And then I have a meeting and a meeting, and I'm at another thing and then another thing and then an event in the evening. Those days happen, but I still need to make time. I look at the day and, like, okay, I can stop in my car for these 3 minutes by myself and have a moment to regroup. What you do during that rest time is what I dig into in the book. But today, just think about how can you get snips and snacks of rest in those busy moments. And it is powerful for you to do that. The second part is that you have to protect it. If you plan for it, you have to protect it. Protect those times of rest, even if that means saying no to something. Now, I can be a negotiator where I'm like, well, I was going to rest this at this time, but this fun thing came up. And so now I'm going to move my rest over here. And then another fun thing came up. So now I'm going to move my rest over here. That can happen to me really, really easily. And so sometimes I have to say no to the fun thing so I can actually have more joy. And that's a hard lesson to learn that I think I'm continually learning, if I'm honest. And so you have to, if you plan for it, you have to protect it. So don't negotiate it away or give it to other people when it means it's going to drain you. So make sure that you protect it if you plan for it. So that is how you rest in busy seasons of life. And another question I got that is unrelated to rest, but is related to how you have to manage yourself was about the Enneagram. So if you are new to me, I am an Enneagram specialist. The Enneagram, if you're like, Ennea, what's it? The Enneagram is a personality framework that helps us understand why we think, act, and feel the way we do. It relates to other personality tools you've probably used, like Myers-Briggs or Strengths Finders or Colors or Projective Index. All those things out there, they're great, but they don't tell you why. They just tell you what. And so the Enneagram digs deeper. And the Enneagram has 9 different types, and they're labeled by numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I am an Enneagram 7, and I am motivated at my core to avoid pain. That is the motivation. What happens for each of the Enneagram types, they each have a distinct motivation. 8s are motivated to not want to be betrayed. They want to protect. 9s are motivated to stay connected and avoid conflict. 1s are motivated to do it right. So they feel like they are good and have belonging. 2s are motivated to avoid rejection. So they help. 3s are motivated to win because my worth is tied to my winning. 4s are motivated to be unique and they want to be seen. 5s are motivated to be competent because that's how they stay safe. And 6 are motivated by avoiding blame and abandonment. So they prepare. So that's super, super fast. In the book Joyosity, I dig way more. And in the playbook, even more. So when we think about those Enneagram types, those are the motivations, but they show up as different behaviors. One of the things I use a lot is my desk. If you keep a clean desk as an Enneagram 7, that there's a different reason why you do that than an Enneagram 3. So the reason is the Enneagram type. The behavior is what everybody else sees. And that ties into this question. So the question I got is are there parts of your Enneagram number that you identify with that don't ring true for you? Of course. That's what I love about the Enneagram. And when we talk about personality, we're talking about frameworks, large patterns over time, not a specific way that you respond like a robot. One of the things that really toasts my cheese. It just drives me crazy that people say about Enneagram 7s is that we are scattered and flighty. And in my experience working with Enneagram 7s, unless they are in a state of unhealth. Like they have moved down into this, what we would call low average space, or into unhealthy. When we dig into the Enneagram, we've got all these different stages of health. So in low average to unhealthy, that's where they're scattered. Even in middle average, Enneagram sevens aren't typically scattered. And they might get a new idea about something, but they're not scattered or irresponsible. That's the thing that drives me crazy. I am not irresponsible. And I would venture to say every Enneagram 7 I know is not irresponsible. And so that I do not identify with, but I think that is like the Instagram meme of an Enneagram 7, not the actual reality of the personality framework typing, of the wisdom of the Enneagram. I think that has been a negative and inaccurate stereotype of Enneagram 7s. I think that comes from Enneagram 7s are willing to play. They're willing to stop something to play that other types view as irresponsible. I think that does happen sometimes. And again, when Enneagram 7s get into that space of unhealth or low average, they can be flighty and irresponsible, but that's not their typical way of being. So that's the thing that I don't identify with. The other thing that is interesting about this question is that every Enneagram type actually has 3 subtypes that are the way your motivation interacts with some core instincts that we all have as humans. The instinct to protect yourself, that's called self-preservation. The instinct to have deep connection with other people, that's called one-to-one. And the instinct to have a community, and that's called social. So each one of those instincts that we all have as humans interacts with your personality motivation. And so each of those subtypes has a little bit of a different flavor. And often what happens is when we describe Enneagram types out in the world, there are 2 of the subtypes that are typical and one that is called the counter type. And so sometimes you are the counter type because you have this strong motivation, or your motivation pairs with a stronger instinct that isn't the typical one. And that's the counter type. So I happen to actually be the counter type of 7. So I do not identify with the thrill seeking. I am not jumping out of an airplane, friends. I mean, I should never say never, but goodness, it is like a super low 0.0001% chance Jenn Whitmer is going to jump out of an airplane because I am not a thrill seeker. I'm not going to do the X Games, probably not going to bungee jump. I might jump off of a cliff into water. That I will do. I've jumped off of boats in the Caribbean with friends. I like rappelling, but I'm not going to do the super dangerous thrill seeking. That is sometimes what some 7s really enjoy. They like the thrill seeking. That ain't me. That is not something that I identify with. So if you're interested more about the Enneagram and you are like, what, and you're like, going to the Google, don't go to the Google. You get way too many things. Go to jennwhitmer.com/Enneagram, ENNEAGRAM. Enneagram, and I'll put the link in the show notes. And you can find all of the 9 types. And it's such a great question about what you don't identify with, because whenever you're typing yourself, it's not 100%. It never is, because your culture, your experiences, your gender, your work style, all of those things are at play in the way you show up in the world. And so it's not that 100% of the type descriptions are going to apply to you, but that deep motivation that resounds, that's how you help find your type. And at jennwhitmer.com/Enneagram, there's 2 things for you. One's a free download that gives you all the 9 types, but you can also sign up for an Enneagram Navigator session, which is the 2 of us one-on-one guiding you to find your Enneagram type. And that helps really distinguish when you don't identify with something in your type. So I'm super curious. I always say at the end of the episode, you can email me. I would love to know your answer to this question. If you know your Enneagram type, what's the thing that you don't identify with that you hear a lot in the world about that? One of the things I get a lot from Enneagram 6s when they answer this question is that they're not paranoid, that people think they're paranoid all the time. And it's not that Enneagram 6 is paranoid, it's that they are constantly preparing. To everybody else who kind of doesn't prepare at that level, it can feel like paranoia. but it's actually not. So I'd love to hear some of yours like that. If you're a 6 or you identify with a 1 or whatever, I would love to hear your answer to that question. Okay. So the third question that I got that I thought was super helpful was, why does coaching or getting support matter? Can't I just read something? And why does coaching actually help you? The reason coaching helps you is because of what you can't see about yourself. So over here, the only reason I can see my hands moving is because I'm looking at it in the screen. I can't actually see it with my eyeballs. I got to have something else to help me. And coaching helps you see what's in your blind spot that you can't see on your own. And so when I have women in the Joyosity Leadership Lab or one-on-one executive coaching clients, or I'm coaching a team inside a business, what coaching does is it takes information and it helps you integrate and apply it in the middle of that email that hits and you're like, oh my gosh, or in the middle of how do you prepare for this meeting, or I had this experience and it didn't go the way I wanted. How do I change that? Just like if you played any kind of sport at any time in your life, you had a coach working with you on the skills as you learned. In the last episode, I think that's episode 114, we talked about the 4 stages of growth. A coach helps you not give up in the middle of those stages and see where you are and helps you apply those things. And that's the power of coaching. So coaching, either group coaching or one-on-one coaching, helps you take information and put it into your everyday walking around life, where you're getting coffee, you're answering emails, you're cooking dinner, you're running carpool, you're running a meeting, you're getting on a plane to travel. All of those things happen in your daily life. Coaching helps you apply all of the skills that not only just bring joy to your life, they make you more productive, they make you more effective, they make you a master and expert at what you do. Because as a leader, it's not about just the skill anymore. It's not just checking the boxes. You need a coach to come alongside you. So, for example, I not only have a speaker coach, you've probably heard me talk about Sally Z. She's the best. I have business coach. I also have currently a voice coach. I'm doing some vocal therapy because speaking is my voice is my job. I speak for a living. As a podcaster, as a coach, as a speaker, I have to use my voice. And I was falling into some bad habits and I was getting fatigued. I can still hear the difference in my voice. Most people probably can't, but I can hear it. And so I knew I needed some coaching because I couldn't figure out what I was doing that was impeding vocal health. I used to teach voice lessons. So it's not like just because you're an expert, you don't need a coach. In fact, every time you level up, you probably need a coach again, because that's when we revert to bad habits. That's when we revert to things or we forget the basics because we've advanced so far. Oh my gosh, I have to come back to this basic thing. We think, oh, I don't need that foundational skill anymore. Nope. Now you have to apply that foundational skill in a new place. In the book, I tell a funny story about a Girl Scout trip where I realized, oh, wait, a new place, same skill, I got to do some work again. So that is why coaching is so powerful. There's all kinds of ROI around coaching that, if I remember right, I should probably just actually look it up. But when you invest in coaching, the ROI on that is really phenomenal. I'm just going to take the time to look it up, and because I think the power is so important. And when you're doing that level of investment, uh, it's just really quite astronomical. And so I know I'm kind of vamping here to get to the point, but here we go. When we talk about ROI, for when you address issues through coaching like burnout or other mental health concerns, Target Care and Deloitte found that it is a 500% return on your investment. 100%. And when you invest in coaching and mentoring yourself or employees in the workplace, Factorial HR found that it creates a return on investment of 5.7 times the cost. So you will get back 5.7 times the cost of coaching on average. So when you actually start addressing issues, like when I come in to speak with a company and we start working on culture and trust and communication skills, you decrease turnover by almost 40% and increase productivity by 20%. It's unbelievable. And when you solve leadership issues through coaching, your own personal coaching or others, it increases employee engagement and saves the average small business $3.1 million a year, according to Forbes. So coaching is powerful in the way you run your money. I also just think I like having a guide. I don't need validation. Oftentimes, again, I'm going to refer back to Sally. Sally will say, you have everything you need. And she will reflect back to me the thing that I already know. But I need that because remember, mirror, blind spot. I can't see it. And that's what the power of a coach. So you have a guide along the way. You're not alone in the journey. And that's my favorite thing about helping people. I'm not the hero in that story. I'm just the guide that helps you. You are the main character. You get the main character energy. I just get to stand along and cheer and help you adjust course. And that's my favorite thing about coaching. So if that's something that might be interesting to you, you can go to jennwhitmer.com/spark-call and we can see if that's something that's worth it to you in your current stage of life. If I'm the right fit for a coach, sometimes I'm not the right coach. I've got lots of people to refer you to if I'm not. And I'm going to shoot you straight because it does me no good or you no good if I pretend that I can coach you. So that's something that you can explore. But regardless of if that's something you explore with me, the power of coaching is really, really unbelievable. So I think I'm going to do a second episode because I have way more questions and I didn't think I would talk that long. But if if I'm going to just continue to talk about putting my coach hat on, answer these 3 questions about rest, about the Enneagram, about coaching. What's the thing you want to move forward on? Do you need to go order the book at jennwhitmer.com/books and get Joyosity so you can get it today? Do you need to get the playbook that comes with it? Do you want to explore the Enneagram? Do you want to grab an Enneagram Navigator session or find out more about how you apply the Enneagram in your leadership? jennwhitmer.com/Enneagram. Or maybe coaching is something that you think you might need. You can go to jennwhitmer.com/spark-call and find all of that where you can just hop on the phone with me for 15 minutes and we can help you figure that out. All of these are in the show notes. Those are 3 choices. What I don't want you to do is sit in indecision. If you're not sure, go to jennwhitmer.com/spark-call. Let's get on the phone and I can help you figure that out because a guide is amazing. And if you have somebody else, you're like, oh my gosh, they need to hear this thing about rest, please share this with them. If they've always been curious about the Enneagram or anything like that, I would love for you to share this episode, subscribe, rate, review. It helps us create positive culture with complex people. So work is a joy and people are whole and organizations flourish. That is what we're after. And you are a part of the movement when you share this with other people. And I am always incredibly grateful for that. I'm going to come back next week with more of your questions because questions are power. Kwame Christian says that the person